Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Buckle up because today we're going deep on DeepSeek AI. It seems like everyone's talking about it. So we dug into a tech article that breaks down the company, and then this piece from Meza Media really caught our eye. It dives into their DeepSeek R1 model specifically. But what's really got me hooked is this whole open source approach they're taking. Some folks are calling it a game changer, right? More collaboration, faster innovation. But then you've got others waving those big red flags about security risks and what about that censorship they've got built in? That's a whole other can of worms. So we're going to unpack all of that, and I think it'll be really interesting to see this whole thing from both the U.S. and China's perspective, see where they're coming from.
Okay, so one thing that really jumped out at me was just how quickly DeepSeek is becoming a major player. I mean, they're going head to head with OpenAI now. This tech article we're looking at mentions their DeepSeek v3 is processing information 3 times faster than the previous version. They're hitting something like 60 tokens per second.
And get this, they're using this thing called a mixture of experts architecture. It's pretty wild. Basically, it means the model acts like a brain with specialized regions, so it only uses the parts it needs for a given task. Makes it super efficient.
Yeah, and that efficiency opens up a lot of possibilities we just haven't seen before. I mean, imagine AI that can switch between writing code, solving crazy math problems, and then understanding images all in the blink of an eye. That's the kind of future DeepSeek is hinting at.
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing. So we've got the speed, we've got the versatility, but here's where things start to get a little, well, unsettling. They're going all in on open source, right? Making their models freely available to anyone. Sounds great on the surface. Like I said, more collaboration, faster innovation. But part of me keeps thinking, isn't this kind of like leaving the blueprints for a supercomputer just lying around?
Yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword. Open source could lead to amazing breakthroughs, no doubt. But that potential for misuse, that's a huge GE red flag. Imagine someone with bad intentions getting their hands on this tech. Someone who wants to use it for, I don't know, cyber espionage. Stealing sensitive information, disrupting important systems. I mean, that's a very real possibility, especially with tech this powerful. And then there's the elephant in the room, right? DeepSeek is a Chinese company, and that adds a whole other layer of complexity to the whole situation.
For sure. And it's not just a hypothetical risk either. They've already had security breaches. This article mentions a researcher, Johann Rehberger. He found a flaw in their chatbot that actually allowed hackers to completely take over accounts. That's not exactly a vote of confidence, is it?
No, not really. It really highlights how crucial cybersecurity is in the AI world. And what Rayburger found was actually a clever combination of cross-site scripting and something called prompt injection. Think of it this way. Cross-site scripting is like sneaking a malicious note into someone's mailbox. And prompt injection is like tricking them into opening it and following the instructions inside, even if those instructions are harmful. Hackers use those techniques to essentially poison the chatbot, which gave them control over unsuspecting users' accounts.
Okay, well, now I'm really starting to feel uneasy. If they're having these kind of security issues already, what's going on with all the data they're collecting? I mean, are they handling our information responsibly, or is this a massive privacy nightmare in the making?
Yeah, that's the deep question, isn't it? I mean, their policy claims they use the data to improve services and that they encrypt and de-identify everything to protect privacy. But this article brings up some really important points. Can users easily opt out of data collection? Where is all this information actually being stored? And who has access to it, especially within the Chinese government? Those are questions we need answers to. And frankly, it's something we should be asking about any AI platform we use.
Absolutely. It's not just about DeepSeek. Okay, so that brings us to DeepSeek R1. It's their reasoning model, and Meza Media really digs into it. Apparently, it's giving OpenAI a run for its money in terms of performance. But here's where things take a really interesting turn. They've built censorship right into the model.
Yeah, it's pretty blatant, actually. We're talking about straight up avoiding or distorting information on sensitive topics. The article gives some specific examples: Tiananmen Square, the treatment of Uyghurs, the status of Taiwan. If you ask DeepSeek R1 about these things, it either dances around the topic, or it just parrots the official Chinese government stance.
Wait, hold on. So even if I'm running DeepSeek R1 on my computer offline, I'm still getting a censored version of reality.
That seems to be the case, yeah. The article makes it clear that even the locally installed version of R1 shows the same censorship. And this is where things get really fascinating. How deep does this censorship go in the model's architecture? Can it be easily removed? Or is it baked into the very core of how DeepSeek builds its AI? And what does that tell us about their overall approach to information control?
It's almost like they're trying to control the narrative, even on a personal level. But this tech article also brings in a bunch of different expert opinions, right?
Right, you've got this whole spectrum of viewpoints. Some experts are like, look, any powerful AI is going to have the potential for misuse, right? This isn't unique to DeepSeek, it's just the nature of the beast. But others, they're really concerned that this is something more deliberate, especially with China being involved.
A deliberate strategy for what, though? What would be the end game here?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Some experts believe DeepSeek could basically be a Trojan horse, a way for China to get a leg up in the global AI race. Think about it. They're offering this incredibly powerful tech for free, encouraging everyone to use it. But what if that technology comes with, built-in biases,
Yeah.
limitations? It could subtly shift the balance of power.
So it's not just about stealing information or causing chaos. It's about influencing how people think, how they see the world.
Exactly. It's about shaping the narrative. Imagine a world where DeepSeek is the go-to AI for everything, research, education, even everyday tasks. And it's constantly filtering information, presenting a skewed version of reality. That could have a huge impact on global perception.
It's kind of creepy when you put it that way.
Yeah.
But how does going open source play into that? Wouldn't it be easier to control the narrative if they kept it all under wraps?
Well, that's the genius of it, isn't it? By going open source, they can get widespread adoption way faster than they could with a traditional closed model. Plus, it gives them this air of transparency. Hey, anyone can look at the code, right? But if those biases and limitations are buried deep in the model's architecture, they might not be easy to spot, even for the experts.
So it's like a stealth operation hiding in plain sight.
It's definitely a possibility we can't ignore. And it raises some serious questions about the future of open source AI in general. How do we ensure transparency and accountability when the tech is this complex and the motives of the developers might not be so clear?
Right. And we can't forget about the geopolitical angle here. Let's put on our geopolitical hats for a minute and try to see this from both sides of the Pacific. How might the U.S. be viewing DeepSeek? And how does that compare to China's perspective?
Well, from the U.S. perspective, DeepSeek is probably seen as a pretty big challenge. It's a symbol of China's growing tech power, and their open source strategy is a direct threat to U.S. dominance in the AI field.
Especially with those security vulnerabilities we talked about earlier. It's almost like they're handing the U.S. a loaded gun and just hoping they don't figure out how to use it.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. The security concerns are definitely real, and the potential for DeepSeek to be used for espionage or disruption, I mean, the U.S. can't just ignore that. But it goes beyond that, too. The U.S. is really worried about the implications of China potentially controlling a big chunk of the global AI infrastructure. It's a strategic threat with huge consequences.
So what are they going to do about it?
That's the million-dollar question. Some experts are pushing for a cautious approach, focusing on cybersecurity, promoting ethical AI development, building alliances with countries that share their concerns. But others are calling for more aggressive measures. Things like export controls, sanctions, even investing in offensive cyber capabilities.
Sounds like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, if they come out swinging, they risk escalating tensions with China and maybe even triggering a, technological Cold War. But if they're too passive, they could fall behind in a field that's only becoming more important.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act, and the stakes are incredibly high. Now, from China's perspective, DeepSeek is a huge win. It shows off their technological innovation, and its success on the world stage boosts their international prestige.
But what about the censorship? How do they justify that when they're talking about collaboration and open source development?
That's where things get a little murky. Publicly, they'll probably emphasize responsible AI development, adhering to local laws and regulations, that sort of thing. They might even argue that the censorship is necessary for stability within their own borders. But behind closed doors, I think it's pretty clear they see DeepSeek as a tool to advance their own interests.
Classic case of do as I say, not as I do, huh?
In a way, yeah. But it's more nuanced than that, I think. They're playing a long game here, and they're willing to use whatever they can to achieve their goals. And in the AI world, controlling information is a powerful weapon.
This is starting to feel like something out of a spy movie.
It's a real-life drama unfolding right in front of us, and the ending hasn't been written yet. The question is, what role will WE play in shaping it?
All right, so before we get to our final thoughts, let's quickly recap what we've learned about DeepSeek, the potential risks, and how all of this looks from both the US and China's perspective. Okay, so we've got this crazy powerful platform, DeepSeek, blazing fast, super versatile, but It's open source, and that's where those concerns about misuse come in, especially with those security flaws they've already had. And then you've got the censorship built right into DeepSeek R1. It seems like it's pushing a very specific agenda. The US is understandably worried, and China seems to be playing the long game, using DeepSeek to kind of push their own interests.
It really shows the challenges we're facing in this whole new AI world. I mean, the technology is so powerful, and the stakes are higher than ever. It's not just about who has the fastest chips or the best algorithms anymore. It's about who controls the information, who shapes how people think.
So where do we go from here? Are we just going to lose this tech arms race?
Not necessarily. We still have choices to make. But we have to be proactive. We need to be aware of the risks and asking tough questions. We have to demand transparency from these companies.
But what can I do? I'm just one person.
Start by being informed. Read articles like the ones we talked about today. Listen to podcasts. Talk to people working in AI. The more you understand the tech, the better you'll be able to spot problems and push for solutions.
So we can't just be passive consumers anymore.
Exactly. We need to be active in shaping how this technology develops. Don't be afraid to speak up either. Talk to your friends, write to your representatives, support organizations pushing for ethical AI.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes. I started off excited about open source AI, but now I'm seeing the other side of the coin.
That's what these deep dives are all about, right? Sometimes the most important discoveries are the ones that make us a little uncomfortable.
Well, I'm definitely uncomfortable, but also kind of empowered. Like I have a better idea of what's at stake. And that makes me want to do something about it.
That's the first step to a future where AI is a force for good, where it helps people and makes our society stronger.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Remember, the future of AI is still being written, and we're all writing it together right now.
Thanks for listening.